Welcome. I'm your host, Dustin, and Dean will probably be joining us shortly. He is on his way home from a scare attraction, but joining us today is a talented Valkyrie herself, Lauren LaVera. So let's talk to her today about her current role as Sienna, Terrifier 2. Lauren, how are you?
I'm well. How are you? I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you. This is such a last minute thing, because I
Yeah.
was going back and forth with Judy, who also helped us get David and Damien on together last week, and
Mhm.
I really wanted to keep pushing Terrifier 2. I've seen it from screeners that Screenbox gave us, so we watched all five of our screeners from that. Then when it was out last weekend, I went 3 of the 4 days I was out. It was crazy. And now it's renewed for this weekend, and I'm going to be seeing it another like two times. So I'm trying to do as much as I possibly can to support this amazing film.
You are single-handedly responsible for all
Oh no.
the sales. You're a hero.
Well, you know what? Thank you for being part of this crazy film. And then, I know I can speak on Dean. He's in the UK, so the only way he was able to see this was through the screeners. So he's very, very thankful for Screenbox helping us out with that. And they are very close with us on this show. I'm actually meeting one of the people who runs the social media, Alex, tomorrow because he lives right where I am. So I'm going to be meeting him up at a horror convention. So our paths are crossing everywhere, and to have this awesome film be part of that platform, and also having the first one on there is awesome.
Thank God for Screambox.
Yeah, literally, they are doing such good work over there.
Yeah.
But no, there's one thing I always do whenever I have guests on for the first time, is I always kind of like to bring them back to sort of the beginning. So if you want to just talk to us about like where acting or I know you do martial arts as well. It's been what 19 plus years that you do that. So was this something that you fell in love with earlier on, or was it parents maybe that were artistic in that kind of way, or was it something that kind of brewed on your own?
Yeah, well, I was raised by a single mother and she was working a lot. So I ended up staying a lot of my time with my grandmother and she loved old Hollywood. Like she wanted so badly to be a dancer and an actor like Vera Ellen. She loved Fred Astaire. She really got me into I Love Lucy. I
Oh
love
yeah,
Paul. And I kind of discovered Bruce Lee on my own, just staying up late and seeing his movies on when because my grandmother let me stay up all hours of the night. She was just the
yeah.
best.
I mean, what are
Um,
grandparents are meant for that, you know? It's great.
they really could do no wrong. Like, and she really was like my favorite person. And I don't know because I was stuck. I was an only child, so I was stuck watching the TV a lot of the time while she would cook and stuff. I was influenced a lot by what I was seeing. So she would be in the kitchen doing her thing, and I would jump in and I'd be like, presenting Lauren, because that was all I knew. And I just wanted to like do what I was seeing. And I loved it. I found myself through film and TV, which was really strange. And same with Bruce Lee. Like I fell in love with him and I fell in love with his crazy expressions and his strength. And like he was just such a great performer, fantastic martial artist, and also a really interesting philosopher. So I really fell in love with him and kind of had like a deep dive into his life when I was really young. And I started Taekwondo when I was really young as well. And my thought was, I'm going to be an actor like Bruce Lee. I'm going to do martial arts films and I'm going to do stuff like that. I mean, this is what I was thinking when I was younger. But the older I got, reality kind of set in, and I was like, okay, I guess I should study law. So I studied law. and, that went absolutely nowhere until like I started working as an optician. I was selling high-end eyewear. It was a white-collar job. I was selling Cartier. I was making great commissions like Gucci, Dolce Gabbana.
Oh wow.
And my grandmother, who, as I had mentioned, I was really close with, was on her deathbed a few years ago. And I just remember like sitting next to her and being surrounded by her family. And she, was born at a different time. So she opted for having kids and being a housewife. And she never pursued her dream, which was to be Vera Ellen or like Lucille Ball. And I was just like, just consumed with the thought, like, she didn't even try. I have to try. I can't go on through life without even trying. So shortly after, I quit my job. I started taking acting classes and pursued acting, and that's how it all started. And that was like 5 years ago.
Wow. So you know what? Taking a leap of faith sometimes, really does pay off. Sometimes for the better or worse. Sometimes what you're trying to go for, you don't really get. Find something else along the lines that that kind of fills that, not really void, but just that itch that you have of trying to do something new. So you know what? It's awesome to see that you are really growing within the 5 years, like you just said, of really, doing movies like this. Like, this is a crazy movie to be, the front star of, to kind of hold up this installment of the Terrifier. We can just call it series now. Damien already said there's gonna be multiple more
Yeah.
after this, and I'm super excited for it. And I want to see more. Sienna kicking ass, and it's it's awesome. And this movie it's very gory and very in your face, but it's also very touching with the the family dynamic, and seeing you as Sienna go through all these hardships, kind of still finding yourself through like this tragedy you went through with your father, and now you have this mother at home who doesn't really know how to show love, but she thinks she's showing love, and then you have your brother Jonathan, who is going through his own little thing, and like you're kind of like holding everything together. So to see you in that kind of role, like I said before we started, the thing I saw you in before was Iron Fist.
Yeah.
That was like I think before this was probably your biggest role, I think. I haven't gone through too much of um, your movies and stuff, but I was going through your IMDb very, very quickly. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. She was in Iron Fist. So seeing you go from that to this, like, that's an achievement in its own.
Yeah, it was wild because I booked Terrifier 2 only 2 years within my career. So
That's
I don't
nuts.
imagine 2 years. And so it was definitely daunting. And Iron Fist was the very first show I booked. I think I worked on a couple little shorts and features, but never led in anything. So Iron Fist was like my first show audition, and I booked it, and that was wild. So yeah, I mean, 3 out of those 5 years was during a pandemic, and that for any creative, anybody, but especially creatives, has been a wild ride. But I'm really grateful that it did happen so early in my journey, my acting journey.
Yeah. And I can kind of say the same like over here, because this show was a pandemic show. Like this happened during the pandemic, and we've
Wow.
only been going for about a year and a half right now, and it's been a wild ride, with the people we've been able to talk to, and checking off like all these dream guests and whatnot, and finding new ones along the way, like you, Lauren, and talking to Damien and David Howard Thornton, and some other ones from like local around here that I've been wanting to talk to that have been on the show, and also being here to give more of a voice to films like Terrifier 2, to let people know that you need to give indie crowd-funded movies a chance, especially with it going to theaters, because this is a movie, like even my friends, I was saying, like, this is a movie you are not going to see in theaters probably ever again, with the amount of like craziness that happens. Like, this is a movie that's pushing boundaries and breaking a lot of rules, and you need to see it. So seeing it get renewed for a second weekend because of how much the demand is,
Unprecedented.
it's
Never happens. Wild.
ridiculous.
Wild. You're absolutely right. Congratulations on starting something, flexing your creative muscles during a rough time, which was the pandemic. It was rough for everybody. And you decided to make something and take advantage of that time. That's really fucking cool. Good for you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for wanting to come on this little podcast of mine and
So
and,
happy to
and
be
talk about this.
here.
But you know, reading all the stats and everything that Bloody Disgusting and Screambox have been putting out of within the 4 days with very, very limited time slots, making $1.229 million. Like, how does that feel for you, being part of this really ultra gory, crazy fantasy slasher, and knowing that this like outbeat a lot of like higher budget Hollywood movies? Like, do you feel surprised?
Absolutely. I mean, not only that, we're at a disadvantage in that this is a very niche type of horror
Yeah,
because horror in general is niche, but this is even more niche because like you can be a horror fan and not a gore fan, which is totally valid. But this film, I think we only had less than a third of theaters showing Terrifier 2 compared to other films that were in like 3,000.
yeah,
We didn't even reach 1,000 theaters. So it's absolutely surprising. I would have never guessed in a million years that so many of the fans would have showed up. I mean, granted, sure, there were walkouts.
yeah, yeah. But you know, that's good publicity.
Sure, it's to be expected, but I was floored and surprised and grateful. So many emotions, but above all, absolutely surprised. Would have never ever thought in a million years. I remember when I was cast, like I'll never forget it. So Damien and I and Dave, we all went out to dinner, but at the end of the night, Damien and I were the last two, and we went our separate ways. And like he was just looking at me, and he had like this glimmer in his eyes. Like I could tell he had so much hope and so much ambition. And I'm not going to say I didn't believe in him because I absolutely did. I wanted to work with him, but I was like, he really believes in this. Like I could see it. I could see it in his eyes and in his heart. And I was just, and I think about that often now because I'm like, he
Yeah.
knew that he was making something special. And there was another night when we all were drinking after we had wrapped was we deserved it.
Oh
And
yeah.
everybody was outside doing a bonfire, and me and Damien kind of stayed behind, and we were talking. And he was like, "Listen, Law," with his really thick New York accent. He's like, "Listen, Law, like I don't want to sound like a dick, but I really believe in this, and I think this is going to be something special." And I was like, you know what, after what I'm seeing, yeah, I think so too. Like it was all really new to me, and I wasn't familiar with the cult following that it already had, the
Yeah.
Terrifier 1 already had. And like he just continued to prove himself every time I worked with him. He was just so ambitious. Like ambitious is an understatement.
Yeah.
And just so creative and so willing to put his all into it. And it was just, I was awestruck. I still am, and I'm still surprised by everything he's accomplished.
Yeah. And like, I praise him a lot because I saw Terrifier, the original one, when it was on Netflix, probably about years ago or whenever it was, and I was blown away by it. And then seeing the reaction that it was getting from uh, people who are really diehard horror fans and like accepting this, and it's people um, that I thought wouldn't accept a film like this because like, oh, it's just too ultra gory. It's there's like no story to it when there was a story, but people like to pick things apart. But
Right.
for him to craft something and create this new icon, Art the Clown, you know, to be in the big four with Michael, Jason, Freddy, and Chucky, and all this other stuff. Like, and I was talking to Dave about this too, and I was just like, how does it feel to be part of that? And he's like, I can't believe it. And now
Yeah.
that you're roped in that with, you know, Final Girls, and you really are like my new favorite Final Girl because of how ridiculously like, you know, just crazy that you get at the very end. And Laurie Strode will always be like number one, but you're pushing her out of the way. Halloween was the movie that really like broke me and like get into horror. So I have a very, very like soft spot for her and those movies. But
Everybody does. Who wouldn't?
for like all the other films I've seen with all these final girls who go up against, you know, monsters, you're badass. Like the shit that you do, you come back, man. You go through hell to save your family of like, you know, who's left, and really show like you're not messing around. And
Yeah.
I know that must feel really, really good on your end to, see all these other people saying the same thing. So I really want to congratulate you and really putting yourself into this role and, proving that girls are awesome. That's another thing that
Yes.
um that horror is really pushing lately. My other favorite movie of the year was Revealer. I don't know if you saw that when it was on Shudder.
No, I
That's a
have.
really, really, really good one, and it's got two female leads. They are amazing, and
Mm.
I don't know. I just love seeing girls kick ass in horror movies. So, congrats on really pushing that and pulling it off in this film.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That really means a lot. Thank you. And you know what? Horror is pretty feminist. Like, if you think about
Yeah,
it, if you think about, because people like to criticize horror in that women are usually the victims, but art imitates life.
yeah,
Women are usually the victims, especially when it comes to serial killers, and of course with the exception of Jeffrey Dahmer, but like most serial killers target women. And it's so wonderful, and it emboldens women when you can see a woman be attacked and either prevail or at least fight back, at least have that strength, which is very hard to find, especially in real life, to be
yeah.
like, you know what, I'm not dealing with this. And I know that I am biologically weaker and I know that I'm an easy target, but fuck you. I'm not gonna become the victim. And I love that. So I stand by women in horror and horror being
Hell
pretty
yeah.
feminine because like they usually are bad bitches and I love to see it.
Oh, hell yeah. And this
Yeah.
kind of leads into another thing I wanted to ask was the costume. That Valkyrie angel of just hope and light. And it's a very revealing and kind of vulnerable costume, but you embrace that and you don't even care. Like you're being whipped and going through hell. Like you're being injured, but you're still coming out on top of everything. So I wanted to ask you, how was the costume? Like, was it uncomfortable?
Yes, it was real. It was so okay. Like, yes, it's one thing that I'm half naked, sure, but how it was made. So, the person that made the costume, I don't even think he was credited because for some reason he dropped out. Like, he started making it and he never finished it. I don't know what the issue was. So, our wardrobe woman, Olga, she stepped up. As well as Jackie, who did everybody's but mine as well, hair and makeup. And they, even though it wasn't their job, even though it wasn't their responsibility, they assembled that costume and put it together, even though they had no idea what they were doing. So it wasn't fully finished, and there was no padding on the inside, there was no
Oh,
fabric, it was just that on my skin. So what you see that she's wearing on the other side, it was the same thing on my
oh
skin. They
wow.
had fabric for certain shots, but for the most of it, no, it was just connecting to me. And I got so many bruises and cuts and like scabs from it. Like it was just awful. It was really awful. Luckily, for the more action packed scenes, I got to wear a replica that was foam. It was like more
Oh,
foam.
okay.
Still very uncomfortable. However, it wasn't as rigid as the other one, so it was more mobile, so I could move in it. And it's kind of infuriating how good it looks on screen because it was just an absolute nightmare to wear. I never want to wear it again. I asked Damien if I could burn it. I was like, "Can I burn this? Can I
Oh
please?" And he's
man.
like, "No, we got to keep it." And I'm like, "Oh, I hate this guy. I hate it." But when I first put it on, I loved it. I felt so badass, and I was like, "Oh, this is so cool." But the more I had to wear it, and the more I had to be covered in blood, hosed down with water because Sienna's like wet a lot.
Yeah.
I just hated my life wearing that thing, but it does look cool, and I would do it again if I needed to, but really did not enjoy it.
Well, let's hope for Terrifier 3 you have it, but it's just upgraded, so it's got padding and more armor on it.
Someone needs to properly make it. Like it wasn't Olga and Jackie's job to keep it together, but they kept it together with like duct tape and string and
Hell
like just
yeah.
the most so grassroots, like it's wild. But yeah, just if we do it again, hopefully it's more comfortable and just better made.
Yeah, it's badass. I like it. Do you have it or does Damien have that?
don't have it. He has it.
Oh, I was gonna say because I think you would have burned it by now, right?
That. And I think that's why he keeps it because I would just like I would just look at it constantly like fucker or just like throw it against the wall or something. It was just a nightmare.
um, so with your background of martial arts, I wanted to ask, when you're fighting with art, you're not really doing a lot of, of that type of stuff, but when you were choreographing this, were you trying to find ways for you to incorporate that, or was there something that was already set in stone for you to kind of follow along?
Yeah, so we did have a stunt coordinator. His name was Drew, and he was wonderful. I've worked with him in the past. He's a really wonderful stunt coordinator. So we kind of worked through it, and I was so game to do it. And I love having a stunt coordinator on set because their idea is safety first. Yes, they want to do cool sequences and they want to like show off their actors, but they really care about safety above all. And especially because we were doing our own stunts, like I
Yeah.
don't think Dave had a stunt performer to do any of his stuff. So we were doing our own stunts, so he had to like kind of structure, okay, what can they do and not get too injured. um Sienna is not a martial artist, unfortunately, so I couldn't really, like show off any of that stuff, which would have been very cool, but it wouldn't have been true to the character. Like
Yeah.
she's just a teenage girl who is presumably weak and has never gotten to a fight before in her life. She's an artist, like she's a lover, not a fighter. However, what was really cool about the stunts, and I've done this before when I've done stunts, is that when you're the victim and she is the victim a lot, meaning that she's the one that gets thrown around, I get to do that myself. Like I get to be the person that dictates where I go, and Dave is just behind me holding my hair, and I'm holding on him. So I'm throwing myself around, and he's just selling it,
Yeah.
because he's an actor. And I think even the scene where, and this is even in the trailer, where my head is slammed against the glass.
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I don't even think he was there for that. I think like they were just like, all right, Lauren, like throw your head against the glass. And I had to do it myself. And I think it only was one take. So yeah, I don't really remember what your question was, but yeah, she didn't really get to do any of her own martial arts because it wasn't really her
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But maybe that'll happen in the future. That'd be really cool. But again, not really for me to say.
Yeah. 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 No, you answered it. You answered the question. Um, and now for the bonding of you and Elliot. So
Mm.
to build this relationship on screen, were you guys focusing a lot off screen to kind of get this brother and sister vibe, or was it kind of just like you were there on set and you just figured out right there? I mean, I kind of get the vibe that the Terrifier team is a huge family, so I think you're probably gonna say the first one.
And you're absolutely right about that. But even my last audition was my first two auditions were self taped. So, which basically means I recorded it myself and sent it in. My
Yeah.
last one was an in person chemistry read with Casey Hartnett, who plays Allie, and
Oh,
Jonathan.
Allie.
Yeah, exactly. And Elliot, who plays Jonathan. So I don't know. I felt the connection with Elliot like almost instantly. His dad was also in the audition room, which was really wild, and that never happens. And I fell in love with his dad. Like I thought he was so cool. He's like so punk. I mean, their whole family is, of course, little punk people. I'm
Yeah.
sure that was inspired by their personality. And I don't know. I just felt this like connection, and I wanted to like protect Elliot. I don't know why. I just kind of felt that connection almost immediately. And we're very close now, but we didn't really have time to bond before. Like we just had to go to set and be ready. But it wasn't easy to, I mean, it wasn't hard to pretend that we cared about each other because I think we did pretty quickly. Like we understood each other, we understood the characters. So our relationship as brother and sister has flourished on screen. And now we're close. Like I'm probably going to hang out with them, the Fulhams, this weekend. Like we spoke
That's
about it.
awesome.
We hang out all the time. His mom makes the best vegan food, and I absolutely love her. And I can't wait to see them next, probably this weekend.
That's awesome. I love hearing stuff like this about, movie sets of people being families, and it's always with like the indie and crowdfunded lower budget films. When you hear stories about, these big Hollywood um sets and cast and crew, there's always like some sort of horror story But
Mm,
it seems like with films like Terrifier, and even like
mm.
Reveal, like the movie I was talking about earlier, everybody is really close. And if we can just keep that with like everything and across the board, not even just in film, I think life would be so much better. And I think the
Yeah,
products would come out so much better too, because you can see all the love that was put into this. Yeah, it's very gory and whatnot, but that's what makes it fun.
absolutely right. And I think that's a testament to how intimate of a production it was. It was a skeleton crew. We didn't have a huge amount of people working on the film. So I think when there is much larger budget films, you're just there's so many people on set because I've worked on them and you can't learn everybody's name. You just like you're all going from A to B. Whereas on a set like this, an indie film, you see all the same people every day and you're in like close proximity with each other, so you have to build those relationships really quickly, and it's really wonderful. I love working like that. I much prefer working on indies. I mean, I like big budget films too because I like a lot. However, I really, in terms of experience, I really love the experiences I've had on indie films for that
Hell yeah.
reason.
Hell yeah. Um, and another thing that I wanted to ask you that would be kind of fun is do you have a scene that was I guess more difficult or challenging than any of the other scenes that you had to do? If you had to pick one or maybe two?
Yeah, I can definitely, and it probably wouldn't be a scene that you expect. So one of the more challenging scenes was between Jonathan and Sienna in his room talking about this. This is spoilers, right? Like we can talk
Yeah, yeah,
spoilers.
we can do spoilers. Yeah, the movie has been out for a weekend, so
Sure.
we're good.
Okay. It's when they're talking about the sketchbook. So, the reason why that scene was so hard to film was because there was a sound in the house we were filming, because it wasn't a set, it was an actual house, where something would go off. And we
Hmm.
couldn't really tell what it was, but the sound department was picking it up. So we had to, and it was kind of an intense scene in that it's a bit argumentative. So there's a build in that scene. It
Yeah.
goes from there's just build intention in the scene. And we had to pause like every 30 seconds to a minute and a half to stop and wait for the sound to go off. And that sound would go off for a while, maybe a minute. And then we would have to keep that energy up and go back into the scene. It was a nightmare. I absolutely hated it. It was the absolute worst. And I'll never forget it because we were just like, we would get into a scene and we would be into it. And then the sound would go off and we'd be like, ah,
Oh man.
stop and go again. And it was it took hours. I remember it taking hours. And not only that, but Damien loves to do like multiple takes. He loves going from grounded to camp, which is great because he likes to pick and choose what kind of
Yeah.
film he wants to make. In the end, I had no idea how Sienna would turn out because I did so many versions of Sienna. And there were times where he would even give me like line reads. Like he wanted me to say it a specific way. Like one scene, and it's actually from one moment, it's actually from the same scene I was talking about. Sienna says, you know how long we've been looking for this? And he wanted it to be such a specific cadence. Like he wanted it to sound sing-songy. So like I had to say it so many times, like, you know how long we've been looking for this. And like it's just after a while it did not feel truthful to me anymore because as an actor you're trying to come from a place of truth at least,
Yeah.
even if it's can't. And I just remember being like, did you get it? Do you finally have do you have it? And I was just so frustrated because of the sound in the room that would keep going off. We had no idea where it was coming from. And then Damien wanted me to say something a specific way. And I was just like, this is a nightmare. I think it turned out well in the end. It was just really frustrating, and mainly because of outside sources we couldn't control.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Yeah.
I guess that's what that's the card you dealt when you want to use actual like buildings and whatnot that you're not building on
Yeah.
a set or whatever, so you kind of are at those odds. But
Yeah.
the scene, it came out great. It really did. The whole movie, it's 2 hours and 18 minutes, but it flies by, and
Yeah.
that's what I really like about it. A lot of people, when it was announced of the length, everybody was like, "Oh my god, this movie's gonna drag." It's like I wasn't thinking that at all.
Mm.
Especially after watching the first one with how action packed it is, and how fast it moves, and watching art do, art things.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and then going to this one, yeah, there's a lot of story and there's a lot of plot, but it's not getting in the way of anything. It still feels like a Terrifier movie. It still feels like art's doing the thing. Just introduce these new characters. We got, yeah, Sienna, Jonathan, and everybody else that's a part of it. And it's just so well thought out. And Damien, whatever he's like eating and drinking that's making him think this way. I want some of that so I can be more creative, and pull from that. So really, it's thanks to him, and obviously your performance and everybody else's performance, and seeing David go crazy on set and doing art things is nuts.
I'm sure you have that in you. It just I don't know what Damien does, but it really is a testament to his commitment. He I don't know how he did it, but like when he did tell me that he wanted the film to be the length that it was, when he told me the runtime, I was like, no, don't do that. Way too long. And then I saw it and I was like, all right, the pacing is beautiful, perfect. I don't know, like I don't he didn't sleep, I can tell you that. That man did not sleep because I would constantly like DM him and be like, hey, just like mental check-in, how you doing? Like, are you going insane yet? And he would be still awake from like 12 hours ago when I had texted him prior, and he had like stayed and edited through the night. So he was just so committed to making the film he wanted to make, and you have to respect that. I think
Oh yeah.
he's a horror fan. He's a cinema fan and he's a horror fan. So he, with those influences, has made something that he really believes in, and I respect the hell out of him for that.
Yeah, me too. This movie is a blast. So if anybody who's listening, if you haven't seen it, you have another weekend. I think it was announced. It's a little less than last weekend, but it's about 700 plus theaters, which is still a lot. Usually movies like this, if they were gonna get a theatrical release, it would be like 50 theaters if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Um, so please go support this movie because it's one you need to see in the theaters, especially with all the people fainting and puking and walking out. I do have to say, at one of the showings that I saw, there was a family of 5 that walked out, and there was a person that was 3 seats away from me who fainted, and I had to get someone to go and grab them and like help this person. So, and
Can I ask when they fainted? Like what point in the film they fainted?
Allie.
I mean, yeah, that
Yes,
makes sense.
yes.
Oh, poor guy or girl, whoever it was. I
Yeah, it
hope
was a
they're.
guy. He was sitting alone too, and I felt
Oh,
bad. He had like his popcorn, and he just had it in his lap, and I was just like, oh man. So,
no, I
woo,
hope
but
he's
it's okay because that's the theater experience. You read about this stuff from like The Exorcist. You're like, wow, that was crazy with all the accounts of people saying it. But now being like
okay.
here and now experiencing it with this, like, okay, this is nuts. Um, so I guess I do want to ask you about the alley scene. Were you there on set when this was taking place?
No, unfortunately, I think they were like in the midst of the pandemic when that was happening.
Okay.
I've not wrapped fully, but wrapped for the pandemic like early mid-March. And I think that they, between March and October, they had filmed that. And I know that it took 5 days. And I was getting updates. I was getting updates from like Dave and Damien about it. And I think Casey probably texted me a few times too. I know it was grueling for her. But it turned out great, and I wish I had been there. But I think it was also a closed set anyway because it's a really vulnerable scene, and she's
Yeah.
also barely dressed. So even if I was there, I don't think I would have been there because I would have wanted her to have her space. Because again, it's really hard to be so vulnerable in a situation like that when you're not even fully dressed.
Yeah, and when I was talking to Damien and David about that, they said it was like really cold. Like her
Yeah.
voice was getting really coarse and everything from screaming for that long and those many days. And seeing this scene, it's
Perfect.
crazy scene, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't blame people for not being prepared and seeing that scene. First time watching this, I was not prepared. When David told me there's a scene in here that's gonna top the girl being sawed in half, I didn't believe him. I really didn't. I was like, there's no way in hell that you guys are gonna top that, and they did.
Listen, I knew it when I read the script because I had already seen Terrifier 1 before I had read the full script for Terrifier 2. And when I had read that scene, I went back about 5 or 6 different times just to reread it. And I teared up at the moment where she says, Mom,
Oh
like
my god.
up. I was like, what? What? And I remember when Damien was editing that scene, first of all, credit to Damien because it looked exactly how I envisioned it when I had first read the script. Like he had a vision and it's like he lifted it from the script and it was in front of me. And I was like, how did you do that? But when he was editing it, I saw like the animatronic head pop out, and she was mouthing "mom," and he didn't do the audio, he didn't do the sound yet for it, and I was like, "You better not take out that line, dude. Like, put that line in there
Yeah.
because that really sells it." And he's like, "No, don't worry, I'm just not there yet." And I'm like, "Okay," but yeah, just wild from reading it from day one to seeing it now. I'm floored by how they were able to accomplish all that. Like, really. Maybe a wrong word to say, but it seems like beautiful work, like really,
Yeah.
truly.
No, I know exactly what you mean. It's
Yeah,
always weird using words like that when you're describing something so gruesome and
yeah,
horrifying, but like to us, if you're a gore hound, like that is amazing. It's
yeah,
beautiful, and you want to just be there and touch it in a weird way, or just be in the same room with this thing. Um,
yeah.
but it's also so terrifying because yeah, I throughout that whole alley scene, I had to stop the movie and like give myself 5 minutes, like halfway through it. I thought it
Mhm,
was gonna end, and
mhm.
it didn't. So I went back and rewatched it, and I actually counted how long the scene was.
How long is
Two
it?
minutes and 40 seconds.
Ah,
So
wild.
yeah, if you guys need to go to the bathroom during that, you'll know when it's about to happen. So if you don't want to see, really really intense graphic violence, go to the bathroom, go grab a drink or whatever, but I say you stick it out and you say that you made it through Terrifier 2 100%.
Absolutely, I agree with you, and I think at the end of the day, even if gore isn't your thing, and I can appreciate that. Like you have to appreciate the the creativity and the innovativeness that went into these types of effects because they're all practical, and like
Yeah.
that takes an enormous amount of work. So I don't know, as someone who likes, I really enjoy gore, but it's not really my favorite thing about horror.
Yeah.
I had the best time with this. And I think it's probably because I was a part of the film and, I just knew better than anybody that it wasn't real. But I just was like so floored and in awe with how they were able to pull it off. Like I was just like, this is beautiful work, like, which is again is weird to say, but just so impressed, so impressed.
Yeah, and David does such a great job as art. Just the way he
Oh,
moves and not saying anything.
so
Like
funny.
I've told him this like so many times. It's like you just work in a way that's different than like anybody else right now. And now
Mm.
seeing the new movie that's going to be coming out, the You're a Mean One, as him as the Grinch, I'm so excited. I am
So
so
excited.
excited. I
No
want
better.
to see him go crazy.
No better actor for that. He DM'd me about that before he like announced it, and I was like, dude, you're perfect for this because he has a very like Jim Carrey esque comedic
Yeah.
style that he's really physical and he's hilarious, but also he knows how to be or act, not be because he's not like this at all, but he knows how to act sadistic and probably from I don't know, he just I don't know. I couldn't even tell you how he does it, but I am always impressed with Dave's work. He's really just an incredible performer, and he always surprises me when I see him. I'm like, damn, that man is talented.
Oh yeah. So, for the first time of you seeing art on set, obviously you saw David before he was in makeup, so like you got familiar with him and whatnot. But seeing him in full costume and makeup, were you terrified? I feel like I would have been. Seeing this other side of this person that you were talking to or going out for lunch with, and seeing how nice he is, and then seeing this other side of him, I would be terrified.
So, okay, the first time I'd seen Dave as art, I was in the trailer with Kaylee, and we were both doing Kaylee, who plays Brooke. We were both doing getting our hair and makeup done. The first day on set, we were filming some of the end sequences in the Terrifier. So we were filming, of course, out of order. And we're just like, I don't know, talking about life and all of those things. And then we look at the door, and there's like this little window, only one opening at the door, and I just see Dave making a horrifying face dressed up as Art, and he already knows I have a fear of clowns.
Oh,
So
that makes it worse.
I know, it's much worse. So I was like, what the fuck? Like, we both freaked out. We truly freaked out. Luckily, though, after that moment, Dave knows how to turn it off. So he wasn't Art. He's not a method actor in the way that he'll be Art all the time. So it was just funny when he is dressed up as Art. And if he did have to keep the teeth in to have to listen to him talk, like with a lisp, because he
Yeah.
has been. So it's silly listening to him do that. So I wasn't really scared of him when he was just Dave, but when he begins to contort his body and when he begins to like really embody Art, yeah, it's horrifying.
Yeah, I would be scared. Like I don't have a problem with clowns, but I feel like he would be the one in like
Yeah,
real life that would scare me. He
yeah.
was actually before the pandemic. I think it was the year before. He was actually at a convention that was close. It was Scaricon, and they were kind of like praising Art and everything, and they had like a whole thing for him. He he had like his little hat. He wasn't like in full makeup or anything, but it was the first time really meeting him and seeing him. They had like a dance party at the end, and everybody was singing. Like Felissa Rose was there; she was singing, and then he was like on the floor just dancing, and it's like this is really funny.
Yeah.
So seeing that side of him and then seeing this side of him, it's just like okay,
Night and day.
that's
Yeah.
that's that's awesome. All right, and now Dean is joining us. He is back from his scare attractions, a little fashionably late, but he's here, and that's all that matters.
Yay.
I'm so sorry I'm late, guys.
Don't
Totally
worry,
It
fine.
man.
was it was for a good cause. It was for the cause of horror. It was for the cause
Yes.
of horror attractions, Halloween, celebrating all things scary and spooky. I was supporting, but hey, Lauren, it's so great to meet you, even though it's kind of over Zoom. But I've got to start by saying Terrifier 2 was the shit. It was absolutely incredible.
Oh, I'm
It
so happy you enjoyed it. And it's such a pleasure to meet you as well. And I wish I was at the scare attraction with you. What a fantastic
It was good fun. Yeah, we've got loads planned actually, but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yes.
But yeah, honestly, Terrified 2 was so amazing. I was one of the questions I was going to ask you, were you a fan of the first movie? Were you aware of the first movie when it came out, and are you a horror fan in general?
I'm definitely a horror fan. I've been watching horror films since I was a baby. Like I can't even tell you how old I was. I think the first film I remember watching was Poltergeist. It was one of my mom's
Yeah.
favorites,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's where my fear of clowns flourished because of that awful clown that pulls the kid under the bed with that awful laugh. It still gets me. Like
He's a
it
creepy dude.
really creepy. And I think Poltergeist is really unique in that it really holds up. It's kind of a timeless film in my opinion.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So yes, I do love horror. I was aware of Terrifier before I auditioned, but I hadn't seen it. But I do
Right.
remember seeing the poster on Netflix, and I was obsessed with the poster. I was like, oh my God, that clown looks creepy. And
It's just
I love
really
being scared, and I was afraid of clowns. So I was like, I want to see this. I just never got around to it because I have like this awful toxic trait where I watched my favorite films over and over again
I'm
instead of,
guilty of that. Guilty as charged.
yeah, like I've seen The Shining 20 times, but I couldn't try this 85-minute film. Like it was stupid.
yeah.
But I watched Terrifier the day I was cast in Terrifier 2. So I watched it like twice in a row that day and I loved it. And yes, I am now a fan. And I think I watched it like 3 times this Halloween season so far, and I'll probably watch.
Hell yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I love how innovative it is. And I love that Damien wasn't afraid to take risks. Like he broke rules. And I was like, you were genuinely shocked when moments happened in that film. And you were like, oh wow, like I
Yeah.
like that. I like that he's not following a formula that's been followed so many times. So I love Terrifier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean about the image as well, because I think that's the first thing that I noticed when I came across the movie Terrifier. It's a really badass name for a movie as well. I can't
Yeah.
believe no one's ever used the name Terrifier. It's a really
Yeah.
good name for a band as well. But the first the first time I ever saw the image of Art the Clown, I was like, "Ooh, he's
Mm,
creepy. He's scary. This is something different." And then I kind of discovered, I think it was All Hallows Eve was the
Yeah.
original one, was it? So it was a
mhm.
different actor playing Art as well. But Terrifier 2 just got stepped up, like they just like turned it up to 11, man.
Yeah.
It was super cranked, and it was such a really good film. When when you was kind of reading through the scripts, were you like, wow, this is messed up. This is some messed up shit. Or was you or could you like just not wait to get your teeth, sink your teeth into it and really get started and
Yeah, I knew it was gonna be a challenge, and I
yeah.
think Damien and Dave, because we all went out to dinner when I was cast, they kind of prepared me for what to
Mm,
expect, and I think this was before I even received the script. So one of the things that Dave has said to me, and I've said this a couple times, is he said, "Sienna is gonna be the Batman to Art's Joker." And I remember, like, kinda looking at him like, "Dude, that's a big statement to make. Are you sure about that? Like
yeah,
that's large. That's a lot of weight. Are you sure?" And he
yeah.
was like, "Yeah, like I'm absolutely sure." And I look at Damien like, "What's this guy talking about?" And he's like, "No, it's true. Like, you're gonna be
Yeah.
the Batman's Orange Joker." And I was like, "Okay." So they kind of they prepared me for what to expect, and they said like, "Listen, this is going to be huge." Like they believed in it from day one. In my
Mm,
mind, I had no idea Terrifier had a cult following, and even more so now. So I was just like, okay, this is a family drama that's heightened, like kind of campy, and it wasn't anymore when it turned into a slasher film. So I was just excited to explore the complexities of trauma and what's the other thing? Panic attacks, which I've never experienced in my life. So I spoke to medical professionals. I spoke to people that I know personally that have gone through panic attacks because that's something Sienna goes through. So I was really excited to explore that and explore what it would be like to be on Molly and Xanax on the same time at the same time. I spoke to my doctor about that, and he was like, "Why do you want to know?" And I was like, "No reason. I'm just kind of curious. Like, how would someone be in that situation? Like,
oh
really."
yeah.
I was just so excited to explore all of these experiences that Sienna goes through and get really physical in the film. And I
Oh,
love horror, so I was just like psyched, and I'm still psyched.
you did it well. I've suffered with panic. I've actually suffered with panic attacks and been on and off medication for panic attacks since the age of about 19, like
Oof.
really, really badly. And you totally nailed it. Like you were totally convincing in that role. I thought it was really cool.
Oh, that really means a lot. That means a lot. Thank you. And I will say this, even though I didn't have panic attacks before filming
Yeah.
Terrified, I don't know if they were self-induced, but I started having them. And it could have been because I was exploring the
Yeah.
mechanics of panic
Yeah, it
attacks.
could have been, yeah.
So, and they
Yeah.
went from really subtle to hyperventilating to fetal position on the ground, crying,
Oh,
and
they're evil.
I thought I
Yeah.
was dying. Like
Yeah.
it was such a wide range of panic, like shaking.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it means a lot to me that it seems truthful. That's what I try to
Oh,
do. So
yeah.
thank you for saying that.
You did an awesome job. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, you
they are
nailed it.
pure evil.
Thank you.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Dustin, over to you, brother.
Okay. So I wanted to ask about Amelie, the pale
Mhm.
little girl.
Yeah.
So, how creepy was she in person?
Yeah.
Like
She
compared to art, I feel like she's more terrifying because it's a
She's a
little girl.
fantastic character, isn't she?
It's
she's
and
fantastic.
just taunting you, like, and especially during the whole dance sequence when you're at the party with her, like being all
Oh,
over the place. Like, I I I I don't know if I could have handled seeing her on screen.
First of all, Amelie, she's a young lady and she is fantastic. Like for a little girl, she absolutely crushed it. She was so committed. She came up with she was really good at improvising things as well as mimicking David. Like she really was committed. I will say this, unfortunately, I didn't most of my scenes with her wasn't with her. It was
Yeah.
me looking at absolutely nothing. So I when I did see her, I saw her like after I had already filmed scenes that I was supposed to be seeing her. And yeah, she was absolutely horrifying. I think she looked really cute for the most part, but as soon as like those eyes went on, like the contact lenses, I was like, holy shit, this is really creepy.
Mm.
So yeah, I didn't really get to work with her that often, which I was really upset about. And she was, you know, underage, so she was on set way less than we were. So she wrapped a lot earlier than us. So, but hopefully I'll work with her in the future and we'll
Oh,
be
she'll
able
be
to,
back.
yeah, I
She'll
agree.
be back.
So yeah, hopefully next time I'll actually be able to interact with her more.
Yeah, because she is absolutely terrifying. Great, addition to a companion with art. Because I don't know, I thought, after watching the first one that Art doesn't seem like he really needs a partner. He's a lone wolf. He knows what he's doing when he's out there. But in this one, with what Art's up against, I understand why she's there, because Sienna's a force to be reckoned with, even though she has no idea what she's into and what she's going to be getting herself into. She gets a little bit of taste of that with Clown Cafe, and that's what I wanted to ask you about that scene, because
Yes.
that I think is my favorite scene
Oh, no
throughout the
way.
whole movie. I mean, I like the ending with the bonding and like you comforting Jonathan at the end. And once again, guys, there are spoilers in here, so if you haven't seen
Yeah.
the movie, please go watch it this coming weekend. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, Clown Cafe. How was that scene? Like, was that fun? It seemed like it was really, really fun.
Yeah, I listen, it's such a divisive scene. Like I've seen people because I get sent reviews all the time. I wish people would stop sending me reviews, but most of them are overwhelmingly positive, and I do appreciate that. But a lot of people again, it's divisive. Some people are like, you didn't even need that scene, and some people are like, that was my favorite scene. So horror is so interesting, and art is so subjective. So it's really interesting to see how it's been received. It was one of the last scenes I had filmed in March of
Oh wow.
2020. And it was wild because I mean, Damien was notorious for saying his direction. One of his biggest notes was more. Give me more. I want more. It needs to be bigger, bigger. And this was an interesting scene because Sienna is like confined in this space. And that's how we are in our nightmares, right? Like
Yeah.
until we realize we're in a nightmare, we're it's like a struggle. Like we feel like
Can't run
we can't
away.
move.
Can't.
Yeah, it's like you're trudging through, like you're confined
Mm.
to the circumstances. It's so weird. And not only that, like she is presented like a little girl, so she kind of acts like a little girl at times. Like she's like really immature in that scene, which was really fun to play. And yeah, I just remember Damien being like, more, give me more, like, just campier, bigger. Like it was just, which is hard for an actor who's not used to that. So I had a blast with it. And most of the people that were killed in the scene are friends of mine and a lot of crew, like Faye, who I felt they had like the blonde streak in their hair with the curls. Like they got the popcorn. I don't know if you remember it. They were so big
Yeah.
in the scene, and I loved seeing it. And I thought they absolutely nailed it. They pull focus for the film. They were fantastic. Also, Francesco, he had like a really cool death scene. He got shot, and the way he like convulsed, I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
nailed it. So it was really fun to be there for those moments because I got to watch everybody else get killed, and they nailed it. And of course, Wes, who was the little boy who ate not the ice cream, the
Art
cereal,
Krispies.
the Art Krispies, yeah, he was just so fantastic and so sweet. And I think he's also from Philly. I don't think he might not live in Philly anymore, but I'm pretty sure he's from Philly. So I was like, oh my god, so many Philly people on here. So it was a blast. I loved the nightmare scene. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it's a blast to watch, and I was kind of trying to champion this a lot on social media. I'm trying to get this rolling, but we need to have Art Krispies. We need to have
Oh,
that cereal made.
I,
Yes.
I was going to say, a friend of ours, Dustin Dan, is an absolute cereal fanatic, and when he
Oh,
saw that, he was like, "Oh my!" He was like, "Is that
Yeah.
a real thing?" And I was like, "I don't think so." And he's
No,
like,
I
"Yeah,
was saying
absolutely."
like it would be really cool to have like variant like boxes, like one with like that's already there, like with Art,
mhm.
but then there'd be one with you, and then there would
Mm.
be one with you and Art battling each other.
Ooh,
I think that would be super cool,
cool.
and like and
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe get like a glow in the dark box or something. Like I would
And the
buy
little
that
figures you get
up.
inside, you get the little figures inside.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
god, I would pass out. Like, could you imagine like razor blade marshmallows? I
Yeah.
would
Oh my God.
eat that.
Yes.
I would eat
Yes.
them
Write
every
this
day.
stuff down, guys. Write this stuff
Yeah,
down.
Lauren, you got to tell Damien that this is in high in demand, and I have at least
Do you
100
not
people who want to buy
realize how
this.
often I bug Damien? I'm constantly like, you should do this, you should do that. He's just got so much going on, but I think he would love that. But it's
Yeah,
just, I don't know if he can handle everything. He needs an assistant, honestly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But that,
I'm actually meeting him next week. I mean, him and David, him and David are I'm working an event over in Manchester, and they're both flying over an event called For the Love of Horror. Don't know if you've heard of it over there.
I'm so new to all of this, so I have no idea. But I love that. I hope you guys have a blast. Like, I mean, Damien and Dave are incredible. You're probably gonna have a blast, but like, take pictures and tell everybody about your experiences. I can't wait to start being a part of those things.
yeah,
Oh
just
yeah,
Dean, just let them know that I sent you. Say that I
definitely.
flew you over there to go and meet them.
Yeah.
I'm taking them the hot sauce as well, man. I'm gonna see if I can try and pitch the Terrifier.
Hey, when I
hot
talked to
sauce.
Damien, he said to email him, and he would love to do a hot sauce collab with you. So I mean, maybe you can get one for Sienna. Get a Sienna version.
Yes.
You
know,
got it.
let's
I love
do
that.
it. Let's
Yes.
do it. Dean, I don't know if you have any other questions you want to throw.
Yeah, so because I know you guys have already been talking as well. So if I ask you the same question that
No problem.
Dustin's already asked,
No problem.
just tell me, what was it like filming with? This is one thing I really wanted to know. What was it like filming with David when he was in costume? Did he kind of stay in character the whole time? Like, did he keep silent and just kind of, the sort of mind movement, or did he sort of, turn back into David and sort of lighten the mood a bit and crack jokes, and how was that in between takes?
Yeah, Dave was not a method actor. Like
Yeah,
and no one on set was, which was kind of a relief, because like when you do have an actor like that on set, there's a bit of tension and you're like, oh,
yeah,
maybe I should be in character for
yeah,
them.
right.
And some people are like, call me by my character name, which is totally fine, but nobody was like that on the set. So it definitely like lessened the pressure and helped with our sanity. But yeah, between action and cut, he was Art, but after and before, he was Dave. And it was so funny. I was telling Dustin earlier, like it was so funny when, because he would have to keep the teeth in, and him talking with the teeth in his mouth, and he just like, oh, like I'm so hungry right now. It's just wild, and he's such a sweet guy. So it is really fun to see those two extremes, from him being sadistic clown killer to him being sweet old Dave. So no, luckily for my sanity, he was Dave most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know he does say a lot that Art is in there. He does have him in there, so it's like just keep him at bay, Dave, and we'll be all good. All right, we don't need you going out there dressing up as Art and doing these slangs like you did to Allie. Okay, just keep that to the screen. Keep that to the screen.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't know. There are some times when you could use a little art out there. So,
yeah. Just take out the whip.
especially to some of the people we come across tonight. I was like, oh damn, where's Art when you need him? Wow. That's the UK for you.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, Dean. I don't know if you have any other ones. I have like one more, but I'll let you fire another one or two.
No, dude, you go. I think because I kind of jumped in late, and
Are you sure?
I thought you were gonna take the round. So yeah. Oh, do you know what I think? Have you asked a question about the haunted house at the end?
I have not.
Was that going to be your question?
No, it was not.
You can edit this out.
No. Go ahead. I have another one after this.
So the haunted house scene at the end, I was going to ask you, what was your favorite room out of all the different rooms that they had in the Terrifier house?
I'm gonna go see it probably tomorrow. So I don't know about my. Okay, there's my favorite, and then the one that freaked me out the most.
All right, give us both.
Yeah, there was a room, which isn't a huge surprise, with a bunch of porcelain dolls. And I am not cool with porcelain dolls. They scared the shit out of me. Like I couldn't be in that room by myself. And luckily I didn't really have to. Couldn't do it. I was like, nope, we're not filming in here for me, right? Like, yeah, let me get out of here. However, I really did love like the blacklight rooms that were and they were more clown centered rooms. So it was kind of ironic that I really enjoyed those rooms the most. They had like a lot of fun, what are they called, like pool noodles that I had to walk through, and
Yeah.
really illusions that you were looking at, and I got really dizzy, but like it was so beautiful to look at, like all the
Mm.
colors in the black light and everything. So probably those rooms. There was also another room that was like swamp themed, and it's fun because when you're in, they have like this alligator that comes out at you. I don't know if it's animatronic or an actor's doing it, and it's all fog, so you can't see underneath you. So it's
Wow.
horrifying. You're just like, oh god, I have no
That's
idea what's
awesome.
happening underneath me right now.
Yeah.
But they have some wonderful rooms. Like if you're ever in Center City, Philadelphia, go to the Fright Factory because they are top notch. The acting is great. Oh no, I really also loved where, sorry, I'm getting really excited.
Oh,
I really
I
also
love it.
Go for
loved
it.
the chapel that Sienna
Yes.
are fighting in. And we spent most of our time in there, but some of the dummies in there were horrifying. Like I
Wow.
didn't want to be in there with those dummies. Like they were really horrifying. And I know the actor that he usually plays a priest, and he's really good. He has like, he wasn't there obviously, but in the haunt, he has like these really creepy glowing eyes, and he's just so like, he commands your presence. I wish I knew his name, but it was one
Excellent.
of my favorites to film in, and it's one of my favorites when I'm walking through the haunt to
I need to go
experience.
to this place now.
You gotta. It's
I gotta
so good.
take a drive.
You gotta. Oh my god, it's probably not too far away from you. So do it. Do it.
Yeah,
I
I'll
think
probably be like less than a half of a day getting there, so I'm definitely gonna have to look into that for sure. And Dean, when you come
Oh
over,
yeah, man!
we
I'll
gotta.
fly over and do it. Hell yeah!
Yes, let's do it.
I just got back from Florida doing all the Halloween Horror Night stuff.
you
That's
say.
pretty, that's pretty incredible. That's the first time I've ever done it, and we did a lot of behind the scenes tours as well to see how these mazes work. Oh man, I love all that sort of stuff. So
Oh,
I would definitely get on a flight just to come over and see that. That sounds
Hell
awesome.
yeah.
yes. Yes, yes, yes. So jealous.
So I have a fun one that we can end on. Do you have a favorite scene? That's probably
Mm.
really hard to pick out, but that's always an interesting one to ask.
Yeah, I from to film or
Sure. Sure,
to
or to act, or maybe it wasn't even one that you were in. It could just be anything.
so fuck, I don't know. There's probably a lot. Because a lot of my friends worked on this film, like because Damien, he needed help with casting and he was
Yeah.
looking for certain characters, and I gave him a whole list of local actors that I was like, check these people out. And of course, like they earned the role. Like I just recommended them, but they earned it. And one of them was Charlie, who plays Jeff, and Jeff is Brooke's boyfriend.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
And I've worked with Charlie in the past. He's so funny. I was cracking up at him
Yeah.
in the club scene. Like
Just a
there's a
tip.
scene, yeah, just the tip, yeah. And when he says, I have to go pee pee, like every time everybody cracks up. Like just his line delivery, it's so funny. But there's a part in the scene in the club that was kept in the film where he's like, me, Brooke and I are like exiting to dance, to go to the dance floor, and he like begins to dance and he exits frame, and then Damien in the background's like, no, you got to go the opposite way, so he just like stays in
Yeah.
character. He goes, yeah, it's so
Yeah.
funny. It's just, he went the wrong way, and Damien was like, no, you're going the wrong way, and he's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So funny. But my favorite scene to film, because it was really cathartic, was the ending of the fight scene. It was
Yeah.
really cathartic, and I don't think we did that many takes for that, and I didn't really get any direction. I just kind of like let loose, and it felt really good afterwards. And I think it might have been the last scene of that day, which was a very long day that we filmed. So I was just letting loose everything, and it felt really good.
Yeah, and from talking to David and Damien, I think that's also their favorite scene too. So,
Mm,
and it's a very, very good one. There's a lot of really touching moments in this, and especially the ending. It's very
mm,
brutal how it ends, but like just comforting, essentially your last, family member, and being like, we made it, and I'm here. Yeah, I was dead, but I'm back. Don't know
yeah,
how that happened, but
yeah,
I'm here, and I'm gonna kick ass for you, and cannot wait for Terrifier 3. Like Damien, Lauren, everybody, I want this to be filmed so I can see it next month. Matt, can you do it in a month?
Listen, I've been asking Damien through the entire pandemic. I'm like, when are we filming again? Like, what are we doing? Are we doing something? Like, what's happening? But he's got a lot going on. He also wants to work on another film that he's like pitched to me, and I'll work on anything with him. So I'm ready whenever he is.
Yeah, we need to see more Lauren and David and Elliot and everybody. We need to see you all, not just in Terrifier films, but in everything else. I want to see all your careers really flourish. And I know David, he's taking off right now, and you're definitely going to be taking off after this one with all the box office, hits that's been going on, and just how much money has been, made for this film, which is amazing. And just seeing Terrifier break all these molds, and for you to be part of that.
Huge over here in the UK as well. Like Terrifier is huge in the UK.
That means the world. Oh my God, I'm gonna move there.
We can do a switch if you want. I want to move to the States. It is literally so big over here. Like it's kind of it's all everybody talks about. Like horror conventions, Comic Cons, like on the horror threads, and you talk to a horror fan, and all they talk about is Terrifier and how fucking good it is, and
so happy. Yay, I can't wait to go. I can't wait to meet the fans. Hopefully I get to go to a con in the UK. I can't wait.
Oh, you'll definitely 100%. You'll be there 100%.
I'm keeping my eyes out. I know you just got announced for Monsterpalooza, but once you get a little bit closer to me, Lauren, hopefully I can come meet you in person. With everybody else. I'm going to a convention this week. I'm going to be meeting Mark Patton from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. So I'll be meeting him, which is going to be freaking awesome.
Very cool.
So I'm excited for your future and everybody else's future. And for anybody who hasn't seen Terrifier 2, see it if you can. And if not, wait for Screenbox. And as always, I always like to give a little bit of thanks to Screenbox, because they've been very, very good to Dean and myself, and helping getting Lauren on the show, with hooking us up with the publicity agents over there, and getting David on twice, and Damien on. And also for them, giving some screeners. I'm really excited for the Outer Waters that's going to be coming out next year. That's supposed to be the scariest movie of this year. So I'm really, really excited for that, and to just keep supporting indie horror and anything possible. I'm going to be seeing Terrifier 2 again this weekend, at least once or twice, because I still gotta push those the numbers up for you guys. And
thank you.
For everybody else, take a family member, take a friend. Don't even tell them what the movie is. Just take them and tell them they can take a nap. Just take a nap. It's fine.
Yes.
2 hours and 18 minutes. You can have them do something or whatever. But it's a movie that needs to be seen in theaters, and maybe we'll get another weekend. Never know. Keep asking for it, and keep telling everybody that you want to see this movie, and it will get there.
Yes.
But Lauren.
It's such a good movie, man. It doesn't feel like it's that long either, does it? It doesn't feel like there's so many good parts to that film. It doesn't feel like it's long at all. It goes like that. You're like, damn it, I want to watch that again. Replay.
I loved the pacing. I thought Damien really nailed it, and he was so close to the project. I don't know how he was able to do it. Like, he was just like immersed in it at all times. So props to him. Like, he's the mad genius into all this.
Oh yeah. And Lauren, thank you for taking some time out of your day to come and do this hour-long episode. Dean, thank you for showing up, and
sorry I was late.
It's all good. It's all good.
I'm never late for anything. Never ever late for anything. But I said to Dustin, I can't miss this. I really need to jump on this.
You had a good reason.
I had the best reason ever. I was so gutted. I totally missed the Damien and David one, because I think I was on holiday over in America, but the timing didn't work out. When I heard that you were coming on, I was like, I can't miss that. So
thank you for being here. Yes.
we put pedal to the metal, and we made it back in time. Sorry for being late.
No, don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it. Lauren, continue being awesome, and kill some more clowns for us, would you? Yes. On screen. And off. Don't go into these haunted houses and start beating up clowns. We don't want that.
Imagine? I was so traumatized that every clown I see, I'm like, and I start attacking
Just go into a room that's filled with arts. That would be something.
Oh my god, yeah. I'll just avoid clowns for a while.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
He's having post-traumatic art stress disorder, like, "Ah."
Oh my god.
But
So
as always, thank you everybody for listening and supporting the show. Because of you, we're able to do interviews like this, and talk to amazing people like Lauren and David and Damien and anybody else in the horror verse. Not even just people in movies, but artists as well. It's always a blast to do this, and this is my happy place. And obviously, Dean, always great to have you here, man. I've missed you the past week, but you're here, you're back, and we're going to be doing more. And Lauren, you are always welcome on the show. So anytime you want to come on and talk about horror movies or anything, you are part of the family now. So
yay.
thank you so much for being here.
Thank you guys so much.
And we'll catch everybody on the next one. Thank you guys.
Adios.